yeah, again, like just make it, like do a little panel like this, and like say you want your castle to have like 3 spires like that, and then like there's a crazy tree right here, and then like whatever you want like swirly clouds around it, you know, like you start there. Same thing for colors. Like if you want to get a general idea of colors, you're gonna like go in here and like just have a palette and just be like, oh, I want a lot of red here and blue like this, you know, like figure it out really, really tiny, and that'll help you stay graphic. Like size matters, because at a certain point you can't add detail because it's so small. Does that help?
It does,
a little
actually.
bit? Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is it okay if I should?
Yeah, of course. And you guys, hey,
awesome stuff.
yeah, thanks. We'll be here tomorrow too for like if you want to write down questions, think about it. I can answer them tomorrow too. There's right there. Perfect. She's right behind you. Hi.
Hi. So nice to meet you.
Likewise.
Hi. I'm really interested in not only storyboarding but directing.
Yeah.
And so one of my favorite examples of good camera angles and camera shots is Casablanca, which is one of my favorite movies.
Yeah.
And also American Beauty.
Uh-huh.
And so I'm really interested in incorporating that type of style in animation.
Mm-hmm.
And so how can I make it possible? Like, is it even possible to incorporate that type of style in animation?
Like the filmmaking style?
Not only the filmmaking
Just the shots.
style, but the shots too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and in a lot of ways, animation is less limiting in that regard. You can do crazier things than that, but it helps to have it be grounded. I mean, a lot of movies and everything, we reference those. Like we have episodes of Clarence that reference American Beauty. It's definitely possible. If you're doing 2D, you have to be really clever and think about how to separate things in layers because it all has to be like a flat element. In 3D, it's a little easier, but I would study those shots. I would draw those compositions, the ones that you like. Find screen caps the way I did it. I mean, that's really helpful. Is seeing that visual storytelling in like a really big grid, because that's how we would do storyboarding at Clarence too. We would every pitch meeting we would throw up the whole thing on a board on paper, and so you could step back and look at the storytelling just at a glance. You see the whole episode right there in front of you without having to flip through it. That's really helpful. And you see repetition that way, and you see this kind of progression that way really clearly. And so I would study the movies like Casablanca and figure out those compositions, see what is effective about that, and then just draw it.
Perfect.
You
and
know?
Also,
Yeah.
Also, I have a problem in I'm a bit of a perfectionist.
Yeah,
so
me too.
Everything has to be perfect.
Me too. This was terrifying, like showing you guys this stuff.
Yeah. Because I was like, I was looking at how you were doing it. You were doing it so fast. I'm like, oh my God, I can't even do that without freaking out or thinking it's too ugly. And it's like, how did you break that?
I started, my back started hurting. When my arms started hurting when I was drawing like too detailed. A lot of it is like experience, but again, start drawing smaller. Start planning it out smaller, and it's gonna be messy. And sometimes you're gonna start, and you're gonna look at the next day. You're gonna be like, wait, what did I even draw? But every time you do it, keep it small first, and it'll help you make it simple shapes, clear, and then when you blow it up, you can finesse it, and you don't have to show anybody. It's for yourself. It's thinking. It's like when you're writing an essay or whatever, you kind of go like stream of consciousness first, then you go through and you're like, oh my God, I'm an idiot. Why did I write that? And you kind of edit it and you take stuff out. It's the same process. Like you have to get that first. You vomit out these ideas, these raw things that you have. Do it small, then make them better. You don't have to show anybody. These are for yourself. As long as you can understand what you were thinking, that's what's important, because you can clean it up and make it presentational later.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Yeah, likewise. Yeah. Who else?
One more question. Come on. Who was it?
There's someone over here. Oh, hey. Yeah. Yeah, just yell. Yeah.
What I find interesting is how do you convey like bigger emotion or like a certain performance just through thumbnail?
Like character goes sad. Yeah. So big motion, for instance, like so in 2 panels, I have the character here, and then maybe at one point he looks over here. You can do it with arrows. We use arrows a lot. He like looks, and then the next panel you're like, oh shit, then he wants to run over there. Like you just do that, you know, and like show his leg here so you kind of know that he's running. Like, and then the last panel is just like the back of his leg, and then there's nothing. So like that's a pretty big motion. He like runs across screen. Can you tell that he runs across the screen here? That's all you need. Just draw it really basic. The subtleties, the like real specific acting, you put that as a layer on top. Start real basic, and you have that in mind. Have that in mind. Make a note on it, like, oh, some acting here. But it's at first you want to figure out the shots, because if you don't have the shots figured out and you do all this acting, you're like, oh, I need it to be from a slightly different angle. Then you have to redo all that acting. The acting is a layer on top. It's the same thing with just live action, because those 2 things are separated already inherently, because there's a bunch of people, there's like 20 people setting up the shot, and there's a stand-in, like a dude dressed in the same thing or a lady dressed in the same outfit as the actor, just standing around getting the lighting perfect, and then they're like, oh, Bruce Willis to the set, and he walks up and he's like sweaty and whatever, and then they're like, all right, now do the acting. Now that we have everything else figured out, the cinematic of cinematography all figured out, the set design, everything's perfect, lighting, now we do the acting. Because the storytelling is a little bit separate from the acting. And so if you treat it that way, you again, make notes. I make lots of notes. I'm like, oh, there's going to be some acting in the shot where he like wipes a tear, or, you know, like adjusts his belt buckle, or gets a text and like whatever. But like if you do it small enough and make a note, you'll go back to that later and add those subtleties. But you'll have a guidepost of like, it's all going to happen in this shot. Or you start doing that and you're like, wait, you're thinking about, you're trying to visualize. Like I close my eyes and like try to see the picture all the time. You'll like see that it's not working or whatever, and then you'll have to add another shot or whatever, like cut in on him texting. That'll happen as you're adding those layers. Like it's. Does that answer?
I mean, yeah, I was kind of basically just asking, how do you add subtext?
Subtext. Yeah, a lot of that is with pitching, or like because. A lot of this stuff already has context because you have a script, and the script has that stuff in it.
Exactly, because like you don't necessarily need scripts for storyboards.
No, you don't. No, a lot of times for Clarence we'd have just outlines, so there'd be block paragraphs. But right, it's board driven, but the writing is actually really important. Like I would do that first, where like you know the beginning, middle, and end of a scene. Or the whole story structure, so that when you're doing the individual chunks and you're figuring out the visual structure of it, you already have in mind what the story is. You're not trying to figure out the story as you're drawing it, because that's an exercise in madness. Just write it out first, real simple, like a couple of sentences. If you do a sentence for each act, it'll help you expand on that. And that's I think that's kind of what I'm trying to get at, is you have to start really small. Like any story can be like condensed into like a paragraph, and then you're like, oh, this sentence, that's the whole second act. Let's break it down. Let's add the scenes in there after you know what the whole second act is all about. Like character spirals into depression. Well, let's come up with 5 scenes where it's a progression of him getting depressed or her getting depressed. It's all about layers. Yeah? Yeah, you're welcome, man. Yeah, cheers.
Yeah, I guess give it a round of applause to Vitaliy.
Woo! And yourselves. You guys have been so much fun. Yeah, thank you.
Yes, so I know a lot of you had a lot of questions, but don't worry, tomorrow they'll be here at 1:30 as well. They're gonna do a portfolio review. I want you to, guys, bring your own device or whatever you have to show. Don't depend on the computer over here, okay? In fact, we're not gonna have a computer over here, okay? So you have to be quick because there's a lot of people. They're not staying the whole day, okay? So it's gonna be like 1 or 2 hours. So be precise and come over here early so you can do a line, okay? So and then you can ask any question you want with them, even take a picture, okay? So thank you so much. This is the end of this day today. So we see you tomorrow at 9 a.m.
Woo!